Hello everyone, now let us discuss about the summary of anti-anginal drugs. So what is angina? Angina is not a disease but a pain syndrome. It is a feeling of pain, squeezing and pressure in the chest. And the induction of an adverse oxygen supply demand situation in a particular portion of myocardium often leads to angina. Coming to the treatment and management options of angina, angina can be managed by medications, lifestyle modifications, and surgical procedures. Now, coming to the types of angina. Clinically, there are three important types of angina. They are stable, unstable, variant, Prinzmetal, and vasospastic angina. The stable angina occurs because of the severe atherosclerotic afflictions of larger coronary arteries. And the unstable angina mostly occurs due to rupture of an erythematous plaque. And the variant or Prinzmetal or vasospastic angina, the vasospastic, as the name indicates, it occurs due to recurrent coronary vasospasm. Coming to the anti-anginal drugs. Clinically, they are categorized into two types. The first category is they prevent, abort or terminate the attacks of angina pectoris. Examples of drugs are glyceryl trinitrate and isosorbide dinitrate sublingual tablets. And the second category is used for chronic prophylaxis. All the other drugs other than GTN and isosorbide dinitrate sublingual tablets are used for chronic prophylaxis. And the main clinical aim of anti-anginal drugs is to increase the oxygen cell delivery and to decrease the oxygen demand. The drug may either increase the oxygen delivery or it may decrease the oxygen demand. And the drugs which increase the oxygen delivery are coronary vasodilators and antithrombotic drugs such as anticoagulants and antiplatelets. And the drugs which decrease the oxygen demand are vasodilators because they reduce the afterload and preload. Example are calcium channel blockers and nitrodilators, which are nothing but organic nitrates. And the next one are cardiac depressants, which reduce the heart rate and contractility. And examples are beta blockers and calcium channel blockers. So coming to the classification of anti-anginal drugs. They are categorized into 5 classes. The first one is nitrates. Nitrates are again subdivided into short-acting and long-acting. Examples of short-acting nitrates are glyceryl trinitrate and isosorbide dinitrate sublingual tablets. Now examples of long-acting nitrates are isosorbide dinitrate oral, isosorbide mononitrate, erythritol tetranitrate and pentaerythritol tetranitrate. Coming to the next category, they are beta blockers. Examples are propranolol, metoprolol and atenolol. The next one is calcium channel blockers. Examples are verapamil, diltiazem and amlodipine. The next is potassium channel openers. Example is nicorandil. And finally, other drugs, other anti-anginal drugs, they are trimethazidine, ranolazine, ivabradine and dipyridamole. Now, first of all, coming to organic nitrates. Coming to the anti-anginal actions of nitrates, it involves three functions. The first one is reduced cardiac work because of the reduced cardiac preload due to venodilation and reduced afterload due to reduced arterial wave reflection, leading to the overall reduced myocardial oxygen requirement or demand. The next one is redistribution of coronary flow towards the ischemic areas via collaterals, and finally relief of coronary spasm. These three are the major anti-anginal actions of nitrates. Coming to the mechanism of action of nitrates, the organic nitrates, they especially react with the tissue sulfhydryl groups and they are rapidly denitrated enzymatically in the smooth muscle cell to release the reactive free radical nitric oxide or NO. And this nitric oxide, it activates the cytosolic soluble guanyl cyclase. And this increases the cyclic GMP and causes dephosphorylation of myosin light chain kinase through a cGMP dependent protein kinase. And this reduced availability of phosphorylated myosin light chain kinase interferes with the activation of myosin and it fails to interact with the actin to cause contraction. Hence, this results in relaxation of smooth muscle, and additionally, raised cGMP levels may also reduce calcium entry, contributing to further relaxation. Coming to the kinetics, they are lipid soluble, well absorbed from the buccal mucosa, intestine and skin. They are ingested orally, all except isosorbide mononitrate. They undergo extensive first pass metabolism. All nitrates except isosorbide mononitrate, they undergo extensive first pass metabolism. And the nitrates, as we have discussed earlier, they are denitrated to nitric oxide with the help of two enzymes. They are glutathione reductase and mitochondrial aldehyde dehydrogenase. And the partly denitrated metabolites are less active, but they have longer T-half. And one more important point is the rate of absorption and metabolism determines the duration of action of nitrates. The rate of absorption and metabolism determines the duration of nitrates. For instance, glyceryl trinitrate, GTN, and isosorbide dinitrate, they both are short acting if they are taken sublingually, but they become long acting if they are taken from oral route. So here the rate of absorption and the metabolism is determining the duration of action of these nitrates. Coming to the adverse effects, they are fullness in head, throbbing, headache, some degree of tolerance develops on continuous use. The others are flushing, weakness, sweating, palpitations, dizziness, and fainting due to post-urial hypotension. One more important adverse effect is methemoglobinemia. Methemoglobin is an oxidative product of hemoglobin and it is ineffective as oxygen carrier. But this seldomly occurs only on an overdose. And finally, rashes are rare, but they are more common with pentaerythritol tetranitrate. So the nitrate which causes rashes as side effect or adverse effect is pentaerythritol tetranitrate. Coming to the tolerance of nitrates. The repeated administration of nitrates to smooth muscle preparations in vitro results in the depletion of sulfhydryl groups, and this may be partly contributed to the diminished relaxation action. But clinically, no significant tolerance develops on intermittent use of sublingual GTN for the attacks of angina. Whenever GTN or glyceryl trinitrate is taken sublingually on an intermittent basis, no significant tolerance develops. But the tolerance can be clinically significant when the GTN is given orally, transdermally, or via continuous IV infusion. And tolerance is clinically significant even in case of long-acting agents such as isosorbide mononitrate. One more important concept is rapid nitrate tolerance. This can also occur with nitrates. Here, the reactive oxygen species produced during the denitration of the organic nitrates, they themselves inhibit the mitochondrial aldehyde dehydrogenase and other enzymes. Further, nitric oxide generation is interfered. So, in order to prevent the rapid nitrate tolerance, patients should have nitrate-free intervals. Coming to the dependence and drug interactions, sudden withdrawal of nitrates after prolonged use leads to spasm of the coronary and peripheral blood vessels. Even myocardial infarction and sudden cardiac deaths have been noted. And due to the sudden withdrawal, if episodes of angina increase, other class of anti-anginal drugs should be given instead of nitrates. The drug interactions are, it reacts with sildenafil and other PDE5 inhibitors and causes severe hypotension, and even myocardial infarction and deaths are reported. And additionally, additive hypotension is possible when given with other vasodilators. Coming to the clinically used nitrates, let us discuss the examples. As we have discussed earlier, they are categorized into short-acting and long-acting. The examples of short-acting nitrates are glyceryl trinitrate and isosorbide dinitrate. Both are given sublingually. Then only they act as short-acting drugs. Coming to the examples of long-acting nitrates, isosorbide dinitrate oral, isosorbide mononitrate, erythritol tetranitrate, and pentaerythritol tetranitrate. First of all, coming to GTN or nitroglycerin or glyceryl trinitrate. It is the most used anti-anginal drug. It is a volatile liquid which is formulated by adsorbing on the inert matrix of the tablet and rendered non-explosive. The tablets must be stored in tightly closed gas containers, and once the bottle is opened, its shelf life is quite short because the volatile active substance evaporates. In order to prevent this problem, spray preparations are available. Coming to the route of administration, it is majorly given sublingually. Whenever it is given sublingually, the tablet may be crushed under the teeth and spread over the buccal mucosa. It acts within 1 to 2 minutes, and the duration of action depends on the period it remains available for absorption from the buccal mucosa, and it is usually 10 to 30 minutes. And the hepatic metabolizing capacity of the GTN can be overwhelmed by administering a large dose, that is 5 to 15 mg orally. And even sustained release oral tablets are available like nitrocontin, corodil, 2.6, 6.4 mg tablets, and the sustained release oral capsules are also available, which have much larger amount of GTN and are used for chronic prophylaxis. One more important point is the nitroglycerin is readily absorbed from the skin. Hence, it is suitable for preparing transdermal patch. So, a transdermal patch which is named as Nicoderm 5 and 10 mg patches have been developed, which provides steady delivery for 24 hours. They start within 60 minutes. The bioavailability is in the range of 70 to 90%, but tolerance may develop. For this reason, patch must be taken off 8 to 10 hours daily in order to provide a nitrate-free interval. Additionally, a transmucosal dosage form has also been developed, which must be stuck to the gums under the upper lip. It acts in 5 minutes and releases the drug for 4 to 6 hours. Even IV infusion of GTN provides rapid, steady, titratable plasma concentrations for as long as desired. It has been successfully used for unstable angina, coronary vasospasm, left ventricular failure accompanying myocardial infarction, hypertension during cardiac surgery, etc. Usually, we must begin with 5 mg per minute and the dosage must be adjusted accordingly. And the available formulations are, IV infusion formulations are Myovin, Millisrol, Nitroject, available in 5 mg per ml injections. Coming to the next nitrate, it is isosorbide dinitrate. It is a solid but has similar properties of GTN. It is used sublingually at the time of attack and the peak plasma concentrations reach within 5 to 8 minutes. It is given orally for chronic prophylaxis. The pre-systemic metabolism on oral administration is pronounced and variable. The plasma half-life is 40 minutes, but sustained release formulations may provide protection for 6 to 10 hours. The last dose should not be taken later than 6 p.m. to allow nitrate level to fall during the sleep at night. The available formulations are sorbite 5 mg and 10 mg tablets, isordil 5 mg sublingual and 10 mg oral tablet, ditrate 5 mg and 10 mg tablets, and even 20 to 40 mg sustained release tablets. Coming to the next drug, isosorbide mononitrate. This is an active metabolite of isosorbide dinitrate, and when administered orally, it undergoes little first pass metabolism. The bioavailability is high and inter-individual differences are minimal in case of isosorbide mononitrate. It is a long-acting drug whose T-half is 4 to 6 hours and duration of action is 6 to 10 hours. Last dose should be taken in the afternoon. And the sustained release tablets are available as once a day formulations. Examples of marketed formulations are monotrate 10, 20 and 40 mg tablets and even 25, 50 mg sustained release tablets, 5-mono and monosorbitrate tablets which are available in 10, 20 and 40 mg tablets. The next drugs are erythritol tetranitrate and pentaerythritol tetranitrate. These are long-acting nitrates and are used only for chronic prophylaxis. The sustained release oral preparations are now available for 2 to 3 times a day dosing. And studies with high doses have been shown saturation of the first pass metabolism and hemodynamic effects lasting for 4 to 6 hours. The marketed formulations of erythritol tetranitrate are Cardilate 5 and 15 mg tablets whose duration of action is 4 to 6 hours. The next one is pentaerythritol tetranitrate. The marketed formulations are Peritrate 10 mg tablets. The duration of action is 3 to 5 hours. The next is Peritrate SA 50 mg sustained release tablets whose duration of action is 8 to 12 hours. Now coming to the uses, the cardiovascular uses of nitrates are used to treat angina pectoris, acute coronary syndromes ACS, myocardial infarction and congestive heart failure and acute left ventricular failure. Now coming to angina pectoris, nitrates are effective in classical and variant angina. GTN gives relief in 3 minutes in 75% of the patients and others within 9 minutes. It increases the exercise tolerance and post-ECG changes of ischemia. The nitrate tolerance and dependence limit the use of the drug. For that reason, 6 to 8 drug-free hours daily are advisable. In case of unstable angina, IV GTN is employed. And in case of stable angina, for prevention, daily isosorbide mononitrate or GTN sublingually is taken. And for treatment, sublingual GTN is given. Coming to the next use, it is acute coronary syndromes. These are characterized by rapid worsening of anginal status of patients, including the unstable angina and non-ST segment elevated myocardial infarction. Aggressive therapy with combination of drugs is intended to prevent further coronary occlusion by increasing the coronary blood flow and decreasing the myocardial stress. Nitrates are useful in decreasing the preload or myocardial work and in increasing the coronary flow also, that is by dilation and antagonism to coronary spasm. And usually in order to treat acute coronary syndromes, initially GTN is given sublingually and if the pain persists after 3 tablets, 5 minutes apart, IV infusion of GTN is started. The nitrates have a limited role in relieving the pain. The next condition is myocardial infarction. Administered by carefully titrated IV infusion to avoid hypotension and tachycardia. GTN is used during evolving myocardial infarction to relieve chest pain, pulmonary congestion and to limit the area of necrosis by altering the oxygen balance in ischemic zone. And GTN should not be given for patients whose systolic BP is less than 90 mmHg and whose heart rate is less than 50 or greater than 100 beats, and the patients in whom right ventricular infarction is suspected, and even hypotension caused by nitrates limits the co-administration with beta blockers. Nitrates should not be given with beta blockers in hypotensive patients and the patients who take sildenafil in the past 24 hours. These are certain contraindications of GTN. The next one is acute heart failure and acute left ventricular failure. Nitrates results in venous pooling of blood. This leads to reduced venous return or preload and this decreases the end diastolic volume, resulting in the improvement of left ventricular function by Laplace law and regression of pulmonary congestion. And IV, intravenous GTN, is the drug of choice for emergency use and in case of acute heart failure. And for chronic heart failure, isosorbide mononitrate with hydralazine is given in patients of African origin. Now coming to the next category of anti-anginal drugs, they are beta blockers. The clinically used beta blockers for angina are propranolol, metoprolol and atenolol. And they act by reducing the cardiac work and oxygen consumption as a consequence of decreased heart rate, inotropic state and mean blood pressure. They block the beta-1 receptors to produce a decreased heart rate, reduced contractility and mean BP. This overall reduces the cardiac work and oxygen consumption. The beta blockers limit the increase in cardiac work that occurs during the exercise or anxiety by their anti-adrenergic action on the heart. And the reduction in heart rate indirectly improves the coronary perfusion by prolonging diastole, during which subendocardial perfusion occurs. These are the pharmacological actions of beta blockers. Coming to the indications, beta blockers are used for classical angina but are not used for vasospastic angina. All beta blockers except those with intrinsic sympathomimetic activity, example pindolol, are equally effective in decreasing the frequency, severity of attack and in increasing the exercise tolerance in classic angina. The cardioselective agents like atenolol and metoprolol are preferred over non-selective blockers like propranolol because propranolol is prone to worsen the variant angina due to unopposed alpha receptor mediated coronary constriction that may worsen the coronary spasm. And the long-term use of beta blockers lowers the risk of sudden cardiac death in ischemic patients. And beta blockers are the only anti-anginal drugs that prolong the life expectancy on coronary artery disease patients. They are the first-line drugs in all stable angina patients unless they are contraindicated. Doses should be individualized and abrupt discontinuation after chronic use may precipitate severe attacks and even myocardial infarction. In order to treat unstable angina and non-ST segment elevated myocardial infarction, they are routinely used but unless contraindicated, and they are prescribed after starting nitrates and calcium channel blockers to counteract the coronary vasospasm. And finally, they reduce the risk of myocardial infarction or sudden cardiac death. Coming to the contraindications, beta blockers are contraindicated in asthma and other bronchospastic conditions in case of severe bradycardia, AV block, severe unstable left ventricular failure. In some patients, even classical angina may be worsened if the ventricular dilation and assynergy of the contraction occurs, especially during high doses. These are some of the contraindications of beta blockers. Coming to the next category of anti-anginal drugs, they are potassium channel openers. And the only one drug that we'll discuss here is nicorandil. Nicorandil is a potassium channel opener which was introduced as an anti-anginal drug in 1990s, and it is periodically used as alternative to nitrates or calcium channel blockers. It is not a first-line drug. It is used as an alternative to nitrates or calcium channel blockers. Coming to the mechanism of action, the nicorandil activates the ATP-sensitive potassium channels in the smooth muscle membrane. This leads to hyperpolarization and then relaxation. And this vasodilator action is partly antagonized by glibenclamide, which is a potassium channel blocker. And like nitrates, nicorandil also acts as NO donor. It relaxes the blood vessels by increasing the cyclic GMP, and thus arterial dilation is coupled with venodilation. So, Both cardiac preload as well as afterload are reduced. And additionally, coronary flow is increased and there is no significant effect on the cardiac contractility and conduction are seen with nicorandil. Coming to the pharmacokinetics, it is well absorbed orally and nearly completely metabolized in the liver. It is excreted in urine and it exhibits a biphasic elimination. Nicorandil exhibits a biphasic elimination. The initial rapid T-half is 1 hour and the later slow phase T-half is 12 hours. The drug interactions are it interacts with sildenafil. The side effects are flushing, palpitation, weakness, headache, dizziness, nausea and vomiting, large, painful, aphatus, mouth ulcers. Coming to the marketed formulations of nicorandil, they are Nicoran 5 and 10 mg tablets, 2 mg per vial and 48 mg per vial injections. The next one is Corandil. It is available in 5 and 10 mg tablets. Now coming to the indications, it has been found to have beneficial effects on angina frequency and exercise tolerance in stable as well as vasospastic angina when compared to nitrates and calcium channel blockers. Additionally, nicorandil exerts a cardioprotection action by stimulating ischemic preconditioning as a result of activation of mitochondrial ATP sensitive potassium channels. So ischemic preconditioning is a phenomena in which brief periods of ischemia and reperfusion exert a cardioprotective effect on the subsequent total vascular occlusion. So nicorandil results in ischemic preconditioning. As a result, it has a cardioprotective effect. It is found to reduce acute coronary events in high-risk stable angina patients. And it is a second line drug and used in resistant angina when combined with other drugs. And whenever it is administered intravenously during angioplasty for acute myocardial infarction, it is claimed to improve the outcome. These are some of the indications of nicorandil. Coming to the next category of anti-anginal drugs, they are calcium channel blockers. Calcium channel blockers are again divided into three groups: phenylalkylamines, benzodiazepines and dihydropyridines. Now coming to the basic brief preview of calcium channels. There are mainly three types of calcium channels: voltage sensitive, receptor operated and leak channels. The voltage sensitive calcium channels are activated when membrane potential drops to -40 millivolts. There are basically three types of voltage sensitive calcium channels. They are L, T and N. And coming to receptor operated, they are activated by adrenaline and other agonists. When it comes to leak calcium channel, mechanical stretch promotes the inward movement of calcium through the leak channel. Now coming to the clinical classification of calcium channel blockers. The calcium channel blockers are categorized into three types: phenylalkylamines, benzodiazepines and dihydropyridines. The example of phenylalkylamines is verapamil and the example of benzodiazepines is diltiazem and the example of dihydropyridines are nifedipine, amlodipine, lasodipine, benidipine, nimodipine, etc. Now coming to calcium channel blockers. Only L-type calcium channels are blocked by calcium channel blockers. Only L-type calcium channels are blocked by the calcium channel blockers. All calcium channel blockers, they bind primarily to open and inactivated state of the calcium channel. And as we have discussed earlier, the calcium channel blockers have been grouped into three chemical classes which have distinct pharmacodynamic profile. The first one is phenylalkylamine. Example of drug is verapamil. It is hydrophilic, less potent and cardiodepressant effects are seen. The next category is benzodiazepines. Example is diltiazem. It is hydrophilic, less potent and both cardiodepressant effect and vasodilatory effects are also seen with diltiazem. Finally, dihydropyridines. The prototype drug is nifedipine. It is lipophilic, more potent and it exerts mainly vasodilatory effects. Coming to the pharmacological actions of calcium channel blockers. They have cardiac effects and vascular effects. The cardiac effects are decrease in contractility or negative inotrophy, decrease in heart rate or negative chronotrophy, and decrease in conduction velocity or negative dromotrophy. So these are three cardiac effects. When it comes to vascular effects, they lead to smooth muscle relaxation and vasodilation. The dihydropyridines have the most marked smooth muscle relaxant and vasodilatory action. Verapamil is somewhat weaker, followed by diltiazem. So the order of smooth muscle relaxant and vasodilatory effects are first dihydropyridines, followed by verapamil, and then diltiazem. As we have discussed, the cardiac effects are negative inotrophic, negative chronotrophic, and negative dronotrophic. The negative inotrophic effect or decrease in the contractility leads to unavailability of calcium, alters the actin and myosin interaction, and prevents the contraction, therefore reducing the contractility. And the negative chronotrophic effect is achieved by slowing down the conduction of electrical activity within the heart, which lowers the heart rate. And the negative dronotrophic effect is achieved by slowing the conduction. So slowing the conduction is nothing but negative dronotrophy. Because the calcium channel blockers, they slow the conduction, they exert a negative dromotrophic effect. Coming to the smooth muscle relaxation and vasodilatory action. The smooth muscle depolarized primarily by inward calcium movement through L-type calcium channels. And the calcium ions trigger release of more calcium ions from the intracellular source. And this leads to phosphorylation of myosin light chain. And finally, contraction of vascular smooth muscle is seen. This is the basic mechanism. And the calcium channel blockers, they cause relaxation by decreasing the intracellular calcium availability. And the systemic vasodilation reduces the arterial pressure, which reduces ventricular afterload or valve stress, thereby decreasing the oxygen demand. So, coming to action of verapamil and diltiazem. As we have discussed, the L-type calcium channels are activated and inactivated at a slow rate. They exist in active, inactivated, and resting state. So, the L-type calcium channels, they activate and inactivate at a slow rate. And the calcium depolarized cells, especially in SA node and AV node, they have less steep phase 0 and longer refractory period. And the recovery process by membrane depolarization. Usually, in order to be activated again, the inactivated channel must recover to resting channel state. And this recovery period is prevented or delayed by verapamil and diltiazem. The recovery period is delayed by verapamil and diltiazem. This leads to depression of pacemaker activity and conduction. And the blockade by verapamil is enhanced at higher rates of stimulation. Hence, it slows the sinus rate and AV conduction. And dihydropyridines, they does not show these actions because they do not delay the recovery period. Coming to the drugs, first one is verapamil and its pharmacological actions. It dilates the arterioles and has some alpha adrenergic blocking activity. Thereby, it reduces the total peripheral resistance and the BP is modestly lowered. The pronounced cardiodepressant effects are not seen prominently in vivo because of the reflex effects of peripheral vasodilation. Usually, verapamil has cardiodepressant effects, but these effects are not shown in vivo because of the reflex effects of peripheral vasodilation. And the verapamil has the most marked negative inotropic action and it is contraindicated in heart failure. When we take verapamil, the heart rate is lowered, AV conduction is slowed, but the cardiac output is maintained by reflex sympathetic stimulation and reduced aortic resistance or impedance. The ventricular contractility is markedly impaired in congestive heart failure patients, and hence it is contraindicated in such patients. The coronary flow is also increased by verapamil. Coming to the uses, it is used to treat vasospastic angina, hypertension, PSVT, which is nothing but paroxysmal supraventricular tachycardia, control of ventricular rate in atrial flutter, and prevention of migraines. The pharmacokinetics are: it is active orally, estimated mean elimination half-life is 2.8 to 7.4 hours with single doses. Repetitive doses increases elimination half-life to 4.5 to 12 hours because of drug accumulation. The bioavailability is usually high for verapamil. Coming to the side effects, the most common side effect of verapamil is constipation. Additionally, bradycardia and nausea are also common. Headache, flushing, ankle edema are less common, and even asystoles may occur. Contraindications are: verapamil is contraindicated in severe hypotension, congestive heart failure, left ventricular dysfunction, in sick sinus syndrome, second and third degree AV block, and in case of cardiogenic shock. The drug interactions are: verapamil when combined with beta blockers or other cardiac depressants. It leads to additive sinus depression, conduction defects, or even asystole may occur. Hence, such combinations are prevented. And it also increases the digoxin toxicity. The marketed formulations of verapamil are calaptin 40 and 80 mg tablets, 120 and 240 mg sustained release tablets, and even 5 mg per 2 ml injection. The next one is Vasopten, which is available in 40, 80 and 120 mg tablets. Coming to the next drug of calcium channel blockers, it is diltiazem. The mechanism of action is it blocks L-type calcium channels, both cardiac and vascular. It is somewhat less potent vasodilator than nifedipine and verapamil, and it has a modest direct negative inotropic effect. And the direct depression of SA and AV node conductions are equivalent to verapamil. Additionally, diltiazem has a non-specific anti-adrenergic action. And the clinical doses produce consistent fall in BP with little change or decrease in heart rate. Large dose or IV injection decreases the total peripheral resistance markedly, which may elicit the reflex cardiac effects. Diltiazem also dilates coronary arteries. Coming to the uses, it is used for vasospastic and classical angina, hypertension, and to control ventricular rate. The pharmacokinetics are: it is active orally, plasma elimination half-life is 3.3 to 4.5 hours. Low doses should be given to patients who are on beta blockers. Contraindications are hypotension, sick sinus syndrome, second and third degree AV block, acute myocardial infarction, pulmonary congestion, and even lactation. The side effects are constipation, bradycardia, AV block, and hypotension. Marketed formulations of diltiazem are Dilzem 30 and 60 mg tablets and 90 mg sustained release tablets, and even 25 mg per 5 ml injection. The next one is Azizem, which is available as 30, 60, 90, 120 and 180 mg tablets. The next one is Diltime. It is available as 30 and 60 mg tablets and even 90 and 120 mg sustained release tablets. Coming to the next category of calcium channel blockers, they are dihydropyridines. In addition to activated and inactivated state, the calcium channel exists in three modes: mode 0, mode 1 and mode 2. And they are categorized based on their response to depolarization. When the channel exists in mode 0, it does not open in response to depolarization, and majority of the dihydropyridine antagonists, they bind to this channel or the channel in this mode. And when the channel is in mode 1, the depolarization produces a low opening probability, and 70% of the calcium channels at any given time, they exist in mode 1. And it comes to mode 2, depolarization produces high opening probability. The DHP agonists, they bind selectively to channels that are present in this mode, and about 30% of the channels are present in mode 2. Coming to the drugs, the first one is nifedipine. It is the first and prototype dihydropyridine. The mechanism of action is vascular selective L-type calcium channel blocker. Pharmacological actions are arteriolar dilation results in reduction in total peripheral resistance. This leads to fall in BP, and direct significant depressant action on heart is seen and does not depress the SA node and AV conduction. Cardiac depressant effect is seen and fall in BP is also seen due to arteriolar dilation. Nifedipine acts rapidly, resulting in reflex effects like tachycardia and increased contractility and cardiac output. The reflex effects when we take nifedipine are tachycardia, increased contractility and increased cardiac output. Because there is no decrease in the venous return along with lowering of afterload, this aids to increased cardiac output whenever we take nifedipine. Coming to the pharmacokinetics, it is orally active and it is available as both immediate and extended release formulations. The plasma T-half is 2 hours. Duration of action is 3 to 6 hours. Side effects are palpitations, flushing, headache, ankle edema, hypotension, drowsiness and nausea. And the side effects are dose related and can be minimized by using low starting dose or use of retard formulation. Some important points regarding nifedipine are ankle edema. Ankle edema is a side effect, and here the ankle edema is not due to fluid retention but because of the greater dilation of precapillary than the postcapillary vessels. And nifedipine, it increases the urine voiding difficulty in adults because of its relaxant effect on the bladder. And even gastroesophageal reflux may be worsened by all DHPs due to relaxation of lower esophageal sphincter. The drug interactions of nifedipine are, it reacts with cimetidine, due to which the plasma levels of nifedipine are increased. The marketed formulations are Calcigard, Dipin, Nefilat, 5 and 10 mg capsules and even 10 and 20 mg sustained release tablets. The next one is Adalat Retard, which is available in 10 and 20 mg sustained release tablets. Coming to the next drug of dihydropyridines, it is amlodipine. It is the most pharmacokinetically distinct and most popular dihydropyridine. The oral absorption is slow but complete. The peak levels are attained after 6 to 9 hours, due to which the early vasodilator effects like palpitations, flushing, headache, postural dizziness are largely avoided. The oral bioavailability is high and it undergoes first pass metabolism. The volume of distribution and T-half are also long for amlodipine. The marketed formulations are Amlopress, Amcard, Amlopin, Myodura, which are available in 2.5, 5 and 10 mg tablets. S-amlodipine is a single enantiomer and it is effective at half dose and it causes less ankle edema. The formulations are S-Animlo, S-Numlo, S-Amcard, Esomex, SM 2.5 and 5 mg tablets. Now coming to other dihydropyridines, the next drug is felodipine. The mechanism of action is it blocks L-type calcium channels and it has greater vascular selectivity. Uses are it is used to treat symptomatic treatment in Raynaud's disease. The pharmacokinetics are it has large histodistribution and longer T-half. The marketed formulations are Felogard, Pendil, Rendil, which are available in 2.5, 5 and 10 mg extended release tablets. The next drug is nitrandipine. As the name indicates, it releases the nitric oxide from endothelium and inhibits cyclic AMP phosphodiesterase. This results in the vasodilator action, and additionally, nitrandipine also retards atherosclerosis. The uses are it is used for angina and hypertension. The oral bioavailability is 10 to 30% and the elimination half-life is 4 to 12 hours. The marketed formulations are Nitripin and Cardiff, which are available in 10 and 20 mg tablets. The next drug is Lacidipine. It is highly vasoselective and it inhibits the L-type calcium channels. Uses are used for hypertension. The marketed formulations are Lasivas and Sinopil. 2 and 4 mg tablets. The next drug is cilnidipine. It is important because it inhibits N-type as well as L-type channels. Cilnidipine is a DHP which inhibits N as well as L-type calcium channels, because of which the reflex tachycardia is prevented, which is seen with other dihydropyridines. The uses are used to treat angina and hypertension. The marketed formulations are Cilacar, Cilaguard 5 and 10 mg tablets. The next drug is nimodipine. It is short-acting calcium channel blocker. It crosses blood-brain barrier and it is highly lipid soluble. It has high affinity for cerebral blood vessels and it relaxes the cerebral vasculature. The mechanism of action is it inhibits L-type calcium channels, and the uses are it is used to treat neurological deficit due to the cerebral vasospasm following subarachnoid hemorrhage or ruptured congenital intracranial aneurysms. The pharmacokinetics are bioavailability is 10 to 30% and the elimination half-life is 4 to 12 hours. The marketed formulations are Vasotop, Nimodip, Nimotide, 30 mg tablets and 10 mg per 50 ml injections. The next drug is nicardipine. It is highly vasoselective and it is a short-acting DHP with significant effect on coronary as well as cerebral vessels. Nicardipine also has effect on cerebral vessels. The mechanism of action is it inhibits L-type calcium channels, and the uses are used for chronic stable angina, Raynaud's disease, and even aqueous solution of IV is used for hypertensive emergencies. Pharmacokinetics are bioavailability is 35% and the elimination T-half is 2 to 4 hours. The marketed formulations are nicardipine 25 per 10 ml injection and 5 to 15 mg per hour IV infusion. The next drug is lercanidipine. It is a long duration of action drug, long acting drug. It inhibits L-type calcium channels and is mainly used to treat hypertension. And the peak plasma concentrations are attained within 1.5 to 3 hours and the T-half is 5 to 10 hours. The marketed formulations are Leris, Lerca, which are available in 10 and 20 mg tablets. The next one is benidipine. It is also a long-acting DHP. It inhibits L-type calcium channels and the uses are angina and hypertension. The marketed formulations are Caritech 4 and 8 mg tablets. Coming to finally the other anti-anginal drugs. The other anti-anginal drugs are dipyridamole, trimethazidine, ranolazine and ivabradine. Now first coming to dipyridamole. It exhibits coronary vasodilation and antiplatelet activity. It exhibits coronary vasodilation and antiplatelet activity. The antiplatelet activity is achieved by inhibiting the dipyridamole. It inhibits the phosphodiesterase E3 and this prevents the breakdown of cyclic AMP, thus increasing the levels of cyclic AMP, and this increased levels of cyclic AMP lower the intracellular calcium levels inside the platelets and this leads to inhibition of platelet aggregation. The next antiplatelet effect of dipyridamole is by inhibiting the uptake of adenosine. Dipyridamole, it inhibits the adenosine uptake by RBC and vascular cells. This leads to increased adenosine levels which binds to AT subtype of platelets, causing rise in cyclic AMP levels, and finally it inhibits the platelet aggregation. And because of this reason, dipyridamole, it is not used as an anti-anginal drug, but it is employed as an antiplatelet drug in the angina therapy. The uses are it is combined with aspirin to prevent clot formation and it is ineffective as monotherapy, and along with coumarin it prevents the post-op thromboembolic complications of cardiac valve replacement. Coming to the next drug, it is trimethazidine. It has no effect on heart rate and BP both at rest and during exercise. the angina frequency is reduced and the exercise capacity is increased. Coming to the mechanism of action, it is a myocardial metabolism modulator. Trimethazidine, it is a myocardial metabolism modulator and it is termed as fatty PFOX, fatty acid oxidation pathway inhibitor. It inhibits the mitochondrial long chain LC3-KAT enzyme, which is a key enzyme in fatty acid oxidation, and this reduces fatty acid oxidation and promotes the glucose oxidation in myocardium. And in generally, in ischemic cells, the energy obtained during glucose oxidation requires less oxygen than fatty acid oxidation. So, trimethazidine, by promoting the glucose oxidation in myocardium, it reduces the oxygen demand and it maintains proper energy metabolism during ischemia. Additionally, it also decreases the intracellular levels of ATP. Coming to the pharmacokinetics, it has good oral absorption and it is partly metabolized and largely excreted unchanged in urine. The T-half is 6 hours. The side effects are gastric burning, dizziness, fatigue, muscle cramps, and reverse Parkinsonism. The uses are, it is used as add-on therapy for angina and post-myocardial infarction. It further reduces anginal attacks and increase the exercise duration for patients who are on long-acting nitrates or beta blockers. The marketed formulations are Flavidon, Carvedon, Trividon, which are available in 20 mg tablets and 35 mg modified release tablets. The next drug is Ranolazine. The mechanism of action is it inhibits late sodium current in the myocardium, which indirectly facilitates calcium entry through sodium calcium exchanger, and this reduces the calcium overload in myocardium, and finally leading to decreased contractility. And ranolazine also has a cardioprotective effect. It reduces the tension in the wall, leading to decreased oxygen requirement. It has also been found to inhibit the LC3-KAT enzyme, which is an important enzyme in the fatty acid oxidation. Ranolazine, it does not have any effect on heart rate and BP. Coming to the uses, it is used as monotherapy and added to conventional therapy as its efficacy in decreasing frequency of anginal attacks or prolonging exercise duration is seen. Additionally, incidence of atrial fibrillation decreased with the use of ranolazine, but the side effect is ranolazine, it prolongs the QT interval, hence it is not given with other QT prolongative drugs. Coming to the pharmacokinetics, the oral absorption is slow, which takes 4 to 6 hours, and the bioavailability is 30 to 50%. The T-half is 7 hours and it is metabolized by CYP3A4 and excreted in urine. The side effects are dizziness, weakness, constipation, postural hypotension, headache, dyspepsia, and it should not be given with patients who are taking CYP3A4 inhibitors, but can be given to patients who are on sildenafil. The marketed formulation of ranolazine are Renoxin, Renax, Cartinex, Rebulant, and Renolaz, which are available in 0.5 grams sustained release tablets. The other anti-anginal drug is Ivabradine. It is a pure bradycardiac anti-anginal drugs and is used as an alternative to beta blockers. Coming to the mechanism of action, the blockade of cardiac pacemaker cell SSL F channels, which are called as funny cation channels, that open during the early part of diastole or during phase 4 depolarization. Ivabradine blocks the F cation channels, funny cation channels that open during phase 4 depolarization. The F channels are primarily expressed in SL cells and to some extent in retinal cells, and the inward current resulting from the opening of F channels determines the slope of the phase 4 depolarization. And this selective blockade of inward current by Ivabradine results in reduction of heart rate, which leads to decreased oxygen demand and prolongation of diastole, which tends to increase the myocardial perfusion or oxygen supply. It decreases the oxygen demand and increases the oxygen supply. Coming to the side effects, excessive bradycardia and visual disturbances are the major side effects of ivabradine. Other than that, extrasystoles, prolongation of PR interval, headache, dizziness and nausea are also seen. Ivabradine should not be given in patients whose heart rate is less than 60 and who have sick sinus and atrial fibrillation. It is also contraindicated with CYP3A4 inhibitors and drugs that prolong the QT interval. The pharmacokinetics are, it is well absorbed orally, bioavailability is 40%, T half is 2 hours, and it is metabolized primarily by CYP3A4. Uses of ivabradine are, it is used to treat chronic stable angina. It improves the exercise tolerance and reduces the angina frequency. It is also used to treat inappropriate sinus tachycardia in patients who are intolerant to beta blockers if they are contraindicated. It is also used to treat stable grade 3 and grade 4 heart failure due to systolic dysfunction in patients with sinus rhythm. When sinus rhythm is greater than 70 beats per minute. The available formulations are Ivabrad, Bradia, Ivabit, 5 and 7.5 mg tablets. Now coming to the overall uses of all classes of anti-anginal drugs. First one is nitrates. They are used in classical and variant angina. They increase the exercise tolerance. In case of unstable angina, IV GTN is given, and for stable angina, for prevention, isosorbide mononitrate or GTN sublingually is given, and for the treatment, GTN is given sublingually in case of stable angina. Coming to the uses of beta blockers, they are used for classical angina where they increase the exercise tolerance, prevent the recurrence of attack and lower the cardiac death, risk of cardiac death. In case of unstable angina, beta blockers are used in combination with nitrates and calcium channel blockers to counteract vasospasm. And as such, beta blockers are contraindicated or not used in vasospastic angina. The next one is potassium channel opener. Nicorandil is used in stable as well as vasospastic angina. It increases the exercise tolerance and decreases the frequency of attacks. It is a second line drug and used in resistant angina when combined with other drugs. And nicorandil, when administered intravenously during angiospasty for acute myocardial infarction, it is claimed to improve the outcome. Next are calcium channel blockers. Verapamil is used for treating vasospastic angina, hypertension, PSVT to control ventricular rate in atrial fibrillation and for prevention of migraines. And diltiazem is used to treat vasospastic and classic angina, hypertension and to control the ventricular rate. Now finally coming to drug combinations in angina. The principal objective of anti-anginal therapy is to abort or terminate the anginal attacks when they occur and to provide symptomatic relief in addition to modifying the course of coronary artery disease, simultaneously providing cardioprotection with antiplatelet drugs, statins and ACE inhibitors. So this is the principal objective of anti-anginal therapy, and drug combinations are employed for effective treatment of angina. Now the selection of anti-anginal drugs depends on the stage and severity of the disease, associated cardiac and other medical conditions, and the individual acceptance of side effects. Usually short-acting nitrates are used for chronic prophylaxis of angina to abort and to terminate the anti-anginal attacks. The anti-anginal efficacy and tolerability of long-acting nitrates, including transdermal GTN, beta blockers and long-acting calcium channel blockers is similar. But the beta blockers achieve greater reduction in number of anginal attacks than calcium channel blockers, and additionally they provide the survival benefit. Whenever monotherapy is unable to provide relief in tolerated doses, drug combinations are used. So here is the list of various drug combinations that are used to treat angina. The first combination is beta blocker plus long-acting nitrate. It is used to treat classic angina because the tachycardia due to nitrate is blocked by beta blockers, and the beta blockers which cause ventricular dilation is counteracted by nitrates, and the tendency of beta blockers to reduce the total coronary flow is opposed by nitrates. So a combination of beta blocker and long acting nitrates is very beneficial to treat classic angina. The next combination is beta blocker plus slow acting dihydropyridine to treat classic angina. This combination is used particularly if there is element of coronary vasospasm in classic angina. In such cases, verapamil or diltiazem should not be used with beta blockers because of their depressant effect on the sinoatrial node and AV node. The next combination is nitrates and calcium channel blockers. The nitrates, they decrease preload, and calcium channel blockers, they mainly decrease afterload on the coronary flow. Thereby, a combination decreases cardiac work and improves the coronary perfusion. And this combination is used in severe vasospastic angina and in cases when beta blocker is contraindicated. And finally, severe and resistant cases of classical angina. To treat severe and resistant cases of classical angina, combination of all three classes is indicated. Here the nitrates, they primarily decrease the preload. Calcium channel blockers, they reduce the afterload and increase the coronary flow. And beta blockers, they decrease the cardiac work by primary direct action on the heart. Whenever all three drugs are used, verapamil and diltiazem should be avoided in such combination.